Hello and welcome back to my comic overviews. My name is Token and I'm your online storyboard to Absolute Superman's first story, The Last Dust of Krypton. Just like Absolute Wonder Woman, I'll be taking apart the first 5 issues and putting them in the timeline order, so I do apologize in advance for any inconsistencies. That being said, follow me as the story introduces us to our hero's home of origin, Krypton, as the narrator reflects on his memories of home, what life was like as a member of the lower class for his mother, Lord Vaughn, who was an engineer and once an exemplary student who couldn't advance further after writing a critical paper on the science class's lack of funding for interstellar expeditions, which led to her ban from ever applying to the Science Academy at only 9 years old. We then meet his father, Jor-El, who was supposed to graduate from his class with top marks, only to be laughed out after giving his speech insinuating that they were killing the planet, which leads us to follow him into the mines, where he pauses the excavation, noting the mines were unstable despite a lack of signs. He tracked the planet's patterns for years, but it didn't matter as a member of the class above him, the management class, irritated with the lack of work being done, is about to force the miners back to work until the mines had erupted and the laborers evacuated, the mine manager being the first of many casualties as he's melted but what looks like molten kryptonite, with Jor-El barely escaping, returning to a worried Lord Vaughn bandaged from his injuries. We continue to see Kal-El sleeping through his class before a teacher speaks up to question him, asking about the source for a paper he wrote, and when it was found out he didn't use the luminarium, he was told the school would speak with his parents before continuing with the class, which is cut short by a power outage, freeing Cal, who runs outside of the room he was cooped up inside, only to find his mother and father working on a project, a machine made of sunstone dust that shifted around their fingers like nanotech, talking about needing to force the scientists to listen to their research so that they'd start building ships, hoping to save everyone on the dying planet. After the ordeal, Cal, Laura, and Jor go hiking, his parents bringing up the conversation with his teacher and expressing how proud of Cal they are, not just for going against the school, but the system too. And as the moment passes with their camping trip continuing, Jor-El spent much of the time collecting samples, which was good for Cal, who was connecting with his mom, as she seemed to never leave the garage, leading to him spending a lot of time exploring on his own, only to stumble upon the wildlife dying in the masses. Cal immediately realized something was wrong, so he started writing about his experiences and finding on class trips on his own time. Whenever he could, he wrote, and when it was finally done, he published it, only to return home to see his father being arrested, which led to him running to tell his mom about what happened, forcing her to unveil one of the many things she built, which was a sunstone suit, an armor she used to break Jor-El out of prison, and creating a distraction for Kal-El, who was digging through files, finding out that the science class intended to flee the planet. Learning of this, he published his school article under the clearance he took from an officer, telling the people of Krypton that the elites planned to abandon them, leaving Jor, Lara, and Cal no time to escape. They fled to unveil the last creation of Lars, a ship large enough to help not just them, but their friends, families, and neighbors escape, and we continue to see the Science Guild setting an execution order on the L House, but that news did not break silently. Continues the escape attempt as Jor plows through rows of soldiers attempting to apprehend them unsuccessfully as the planet explodes in more ways than one. Riots break out, workers fight off managers as they try to protect the elite from the swarms of people, and once the L family made it to the Union Point, we see everyone that the ship had space for standing outside, mourning their dying world, waiting to board. Laura began to inform everyone to let the sun dust bond with them, the workers uniting to survive, and we see the elites being overwhelmed. We find out that not a single one of their ships take off, despite the elites trying to have all of them executed so they could evacuate. Laura's ship successfully took off, but was quickly intercepted by a giant chunk of kryptonite tearing through the hull, and although that was planned for as the cape introduces itself as Soul, Cal's exploratory spacesuit, which turned into a ship giving temporary hope for survival once more, even if they'd be separated, only for it to be stripped in an instant by tiny chunks, taking out each and every ship, killing many of the already dwindling numbers of survivors. 6 years later, the story continues in Brazil, introducing us to Joel, who is speaking to our protagonist, a much older Kal-El, the last surviving son of Krypton, inviting him to eat with all the other workers, in which Kal-El declines, saying there is work to do, as he goes to the mines, not only clearing them, but also refining the diamonds in the dead of night when no one is looking. For once morning comes, the workers go to the mines and are stunned to see all the work had been done and the harsh weather cleared. The workers wheeled out the refined gems to the mine guards, known as peacemakers, Lazarus Corp's armed security, who in turn lined them up for questioning. rather violently as they couldn't find the last worker. One sudden deprived Kal-El, who was tired of running from sweatshops, some mines, who finally decided to fight back as the peacemakers were preparing to open fire. Cal takes him out with the help of his sunstone cape, only to lose control due to his lack of sunlight exposure. More vehicles and weapons are mobilized to stop, aimed ready to fire before he is handcuffed by one agent Lois Lane, and we cut to a prison complex in Nevada, seeing Brainiac watching the camera footage of Cal. We return to Brazil where reinforcements begin to arrive, cornering Cal and Lane as the Sundust Cape attempts to remove the cuffs after he informs it not to harm Lane. The peacemakers and other agents misinterpret it and begin opening fire, making Cal use his body to shield Lane, only for her to make it more difficult by tasing Cal. The suit is unable to break the cuffs quickly without hurting Lane, so Cal takes off, Lane attached to his wrist and Lazarus following behind, opening fire, narrowly missing before one of the rockets strikes a church, setting it ablaze with civilians inside. Even with Lane attached, he rushed in to save everyone trapped as he explains the sun dust formed the cape would protect her, seeming almost angelic as he left with every last person, saving them and using his freeze breath to put out the burning church. After the cuffs are broken, we cut to Agent Lane writing her report, getting frustrated with the AI as it misinterprets what she wrote, as we learn that she herself isn't fond of writing reports, usually letting the machine do the job for her. Lane's short segment ends as we continue to one of the officers injured by Cal, Agent Smith, who explains his experience despite the fact that he should be in the medbay. He sends out clearly unwell and angry, wanting to know more about this Superman. He came to the assumption the civilians knew something. He thought that they were hiding him and simply opened fire on the crowd. After Cal's escape, we follow Lane back to the base where she receives a phone call from her father, one retired General Lane, a former Lazarus soldier and now paraplegic, warning her about going to the sites alone. Before she disregards his advice, interviewing different people in the Lazarus camp, she asks about their injuries and their grievances, where they repeat a common name, Crenshaw, and praises and even prayers to this Superman. People praying for his rage, people praying for Superman to come and kill all of Lazarus, to free everyone from their clutches. We cut to Lane finding Crenshaw, a peacemaker, in the courtyards, not only beating him, but humiliating him and breaking his cutting hand, ensuring he wouldn't be able to wound anyone else before she leaves the base. As she's out in the streets of Pakistan, she's attacked by a group who call themselves the Omega Men, in which she survives as the peacemakers escalate the fighting, only for Superman to end the fight, freezing the peacemakers and telling Lane to stop looking for him and leaving before she can get a word and letting the Omega Men escape. The civilians in the area laughed as the peacemakers were thawed out, and unhinged Agent Smith opening fire once more, killing everyone in the crowd. A terrible mistake with fast repercussions as Cal arrived on the Pakistan compound, blasting through the door with his heat vision and tearing through not just the base but anyone in his way as he hunted down Peacemaker Smith. That right there is where we end the story of the last dust of Krypton. If you're asking what about Mott and Pa Kent, well, I've got that too, and it ain't too happy as we get glimpses here and there. The abandoned Kent house with a hole blown through the roof with a sign, the red property of Lazarus. Ma on her bed asking for the angel to fly back home, which Cal did return to, but we don't see them reunite. And on that depressing note, I'm going to leave Absolute Superman's first storyline. If you want to check it out for yourself, make sure to visit your local comic shop. Find Volume 1 releasing August 19th. Go ahead and visit DC if you don't want the paperback, and check out their subscription plans, or find their paperbacks on your own. My name is Soken, and y'all have a super day. Hey, so I forgot to mention this. If you want to check out my other video on Absolute Wonder Woman, go ahead and leave a like. Go ahead and subscribe. All up to you. Look forward to my next video, which will be Absolute Batman. I will be dropping it either next Wednesday or the following Wednesday. I'm still debating whether I want to do this weekly or bi-weekly because the writing styles for a lot of these Absolute series is very iffy. Alright, with that, goodbye.